This is a very tough topic for me to cover, as someone who loves technology but also an artist. The use of generative AI has been growing at an insane rate over the past few years and has been surrounded by constant discussion, legal battles, and controversy. Despite the public attempts at slowing this technology down, the industry clearly has its eyes on the potential and, in some cases, already in use for filmmaking. I would absolutely love to talk about the moral implications and the controversy surrounding generative AI, but this project will only focus on exploring its technological potential in cinematography and how it could be used to assist on set for certain workflows. Generative AI is defined as algorithms powered by AI that use trained data models from content like images or text to generate new original content based on input prompts. My goal for this project is to find and develop a workflow that can assist cinematographers or visual effects artists to preview a rough composition on set using the power of AI generation. While Timelapse Dan is setting up the green screen in the background, let's go over the type of AI that we will be using. There is a number of different types of generative AI, but I will be focusing on diffusion models. Diffusion models are a little complicated to fully understand, but here's the basic principle as it is important for this project. Basically, these models understand how to reconstruct randomized noise into recognizable images based on a given prompt. Most of you might already be aware of how images can be generated out of text prompts. The process of generating images out of text prompts is known as text-to-image generation. Although I will be using aspects of text-to-image generation, I'm not simply generating backgrounds that look cool to put it on a green screen and calling it a cinematography project. What I will be doing instead is generating backgrounds that is visually consistent to a given lighting composition. This means that we will be using already established lighting compositions to feed into the AI so that it generates consistent looking backgrounds. You see, diffusion models have a superpower called image-to-image generation. It takes an image as an input and then outputs an image. Reminding you from earlier, diffusion models reconstruct randomized noise into the prompted image, but in image-to-image, it can use an input image, blur it to a certain amount, and then reconstruct that blurry image into a new image. This means that it can maintain the established composition, color, and lighting when generating its content. It looks like Timelapse Dan is finished with the lighting setup, so I'll show you what I mean with what he's made. Timelapse Dan has used two-tone backlights using the color teal blue and orange, with a tungsten light as the key with some fill. He has established a scene that is asking for some kind of sci-fi background as he is pondering some mysterious orb. Using OBS, an open source streaming software, Timelapse Dan routed the HDMI video signal coming from the camera and live composited in the assets that he got on set. Then he used the HDMI output of the laptop to transmit the composition signal to a wireless transmitter to monitor the feed on his iPad in front of the camera. To start the composition process, a base background was generated to work with, using standard text-to-image generation. Timelapse Dan then used image-to-image using the lighting composition he got from OBS in order to generate an appropriately lit background. If you look at the live feed of the iPad, you can see that it indeed reflects the light sources that is appropriately positioned to the backlights that Timelapse Dan positioned, thanks to image-to-image generation. Admittedly, the idea of the scene may have been a bit too ambitious for the AI, as it generated a background that is completely not realistic at all. But the concept is still there, and this is only the limitation of the dataset that the model is using. Using image-to-image, we are able to try out different backgrounds using different text prompts live on set. Timelapse Dan thought this was a great feature of using diffusion models since it can theoretically be used to change out and modify details live on set, just like how virtual production workflows change their environments in real time. However, it has been pointed out during feedback sessions, mostly from Munjal, that the visual differences at a glance are minor and insignificant since the composition of the environments barely change. This is something that I didn't realize until much later while editing this project, and in hindsight, I completely agree. As I experimented more and more during post-production, I slowly learned the fundamental limitations of AI generation workflow. As impressive as AI generation is with its fast growth in quality and efficiency, it unfortunately still isn't good enough to tackle the suspension of disbelief of filmmaking. To the untrained eye, AI may be totally usable for production use for still imagery, but for motion picture, the quality simply doesn't seem to be at an acceptable level yet. While working on this very project, there were so many advancements in AI generation technology related to cinematography. During NAB 2023, Blackmagic Design showcased Relight, a tool to relight subjects during post production powered by AI generated normal maps. Just a week after that one, Beeble AI announced Switchlight, which does the same thing but dramatically different. And most recently, that pizza commercial, that's text to video generation. Not text to image sequence, but text to video. Yes, it may look very lacking, but consider the fact that generative AI for motion picture practically only existed for 6 months since Meta AI's concept research. I don't think that my workflow is close to functional at all, at least for now. But thanks to this project, I got to learn a lot about the technical side of AI generation, and I hope that it at least sparks conversation and interest for you too. I always wanted to look into this topic, and I'm always open to discuss parts that weren't covered in this project, including important conversations like the moral implications of AI. Alright, bye.